something down the track. He's got rhythm in his feet, but nothing in the sack. It's the Boogie Woogie Santa Claus. Boogie Woogie Santa Claus. Boogie Woogie Santa comes to town every Christmas Day. Well, he lives up in a mountain like a hermit in a cave. Never had a haircut, never took a shave. It's the Boogie Woogie Santa Claus. The Boogie Woogie Santa Claus. The Boogie Woogie Santa comes this time every Christmas Day. Well, let's rock, 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 Mr. Santa. Oh yeah, jump, 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 Mr. Santa. The Boogie Woogie Santa will boogie all the blues away.
You're asking me. Thank you.
Well, up until about a fortnight ago, I'd never heard of you, but now I wish I'd known you for years.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a big journey, huh? When you consider all the things I've done over the past few years.
Yeah, and I've been following your journey, catching up through your website, Lyn, and you seem to be a unique in the world of music.
Very, I would say, yeah. It's the most unlikely of consequences when you try for hitting your dreams when you're in the retirement age.
Oh, come on.
It's really a danger, I would say. I forgot to put I am on mute on my phone, so okay, that's good news. Yeah, it's been a journey, and I have to thank Paul Smith, Ella Fitzgerald's piano player, for starting me on it.
Okay, and the other key figure I was intrigued to see in your bio was Stanley Turrentine.
Well, he was in my life long before I met Paul. I appreciated his work so many years ago. So, and I just realized that if you want to be, I was given instructions by Paul and his wife that if you want to be unique, don't mimic anyone else. There's already a million cover artists. And if you have a unique voice, which I do, people will recognize you in the first 2 or 3 notes. And that's the key, they thought, to success.
And quite right too, Lyn. And that's what's brought me as a vintage soul and blues fan to the appreciation of a lady with a huge jazz background and an immense talent as well. And I kind of thought, what happened? I got the album sent through by Zachary, and the first track I played was a song I hate with a vengeance, which is Little Drummer Boy.
Well, that one is, did you get the jazz version, the newest one?
Yeah. Because that's what I thought, crikey, this lady is singing this song that I don't like and making me love it.
Well, it was an idea that came to me, and believe me, it was a real tough assignment for the arranger.
Yeah.
Very tough. He came through there with flying colors, and I told him I said I can hear it in my head because obviously if you know my background, I had no musical training all these years, and all I could hear it is in my head how it might go, and he appreciated it and thought, wow, that's really a different way of looking at it. And I thought people were complaining about that song being so repetitive with the pa-rum-pa-bum-bum. Yeah. And I honestly had recorded it once before the traditional way for my mother, who thinks that's the best song in the world. So I had done it for her, but when I came on my own with this particular album and could go different ways, I thought, I'm really going to step it up and really make people, I said to the guys when we were doing it, it's a little irreverent, a little, because I'm like telling Bernie, okay, show your stuff, Bernie. And I gave Bernie Dressel, the terrific drummer on this one, the carte blanche of doing 32 bars any way he wanted.
Yeah.
Any way he wanted. And we only had 2 takes, and he said, I like the first one. And I said, me too. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah. So that 32-bar drum solo at the end, which is mirroring Joe Morello down to a T, that's an original bit of drumming.
Yeah, he said he channeled, I guess that's the new word, he channeled Joe to be influencing him, but he said he still went his own way. And what I think is marvelous about that piece is when Bernie does silence. There's a really interesting portfolio to me of the drummers that know when to be quiet.
Yeah.
And know that the other guys can keep the beat going. Yeah, Bernie did that, and I was so impressed. He's the drummer on the movie Whiplash. At the very last scene of that movie, the drummer that the man went, his coup de grace moment.
Yeah.
That was Bernie doing that. So Bernie's really a tremendous drummer.
Okay, that's. I shall listen to it with a different ear. I already played it last Thursday on my show. I shall play it again this Thursday and be able to know that that's a real drummer, not a sampling at the end, which is a superb bit of drumming.
Yes, yeah, he's really great.
And I think you'll know as a jazz singer and as a musician that the drummer can actually make or break a band and a group.
Oh my gosh, especially on a big band album. I just got a request from a Grammy member, as I am as well, to vote on their nomination for a Grammy with an album that's in the jazz category, Jazz Latin. And they had individual people recording in their homes and then sending in tracks. And, for me, that is totally not big band. And so what we did it the real way. We did it with the drummer, everybody all together. And we had incredible COVID protection built in. We did have some in different rooms, obviously, because of the COVID issue, and channeled them with snakes coming into the console. But they were there talking to each other all the time. They could go down and yell at one guy or do whatever they needed to do. It wasn't like they were independently doing their own thing. And I'm praying that the world going forward will never be one of individual tracks on a big band album. I'm praying that the people embrace when the guys are together.
Yeah.
It was a really unusual being able to do that. I probably am the only person that did a big band album because the studios here in the United States were so protective. They didn't even want to let me do it. So to get the guys in and doing it and spraying Lysol on their feet and spittoons for their instruments. I mean, I did everything, and I was very strict with them, but we got it done and no one got sick. We were all very healthy.
So that's a creative masterpiece in its way, then, Lyn, the way it's been done.
Yeah. It was really a huge effort by everyone. And they were all frightened. Believe me, they were all frightened. Some had 3 masks on, when they were walking in the door.
Yeah.
And I could appreciate that, but I begged them to trust me that I was really doing everything the right way. And, they had their credentials, all of their COVID things, but no one got sick and everyone performed so well. It was our first time really playing as a group after a year.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, it's magic. As literally the last song on the album tells me, it's magic, and it really is.
Yeah, thank you. I have what you are getting on these 6 tracks. I believe you've been furnished is a piecemeal of what the album I will be presenting to you, the normal big album I'll be presenting to you in the next few months. My son died this year at 36.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
At the age of at 36 with a accidental fentanyl overdose, and it was such a shock. I didn't have any idea that he had an addiction, and so therefore I actually came across the point of deciding I couldn't do it. I really couldn't do it. So I'm in the point now where I'm getting better. It happened on Mother's Day in the United States this year, and I'm going to be able to do it for next year, but I couldn't give you the full album. But when you hear the full album and all of the layout of the full album, I think you're going to be very impressed with what we did. People are telling me that I sent it to some of my very special fans who have been with me all along. They begged me to give it to them this year, and they're all saying, "Oh my gosh, it's like the best album they've ever heard." It's really, and they could play it year round. It's because I put songs in it that are not traditional Christmas songs.
Yeah, no, for real, and that's why I was going to ask you about the R&B influence here, the Boogie Woogie Santa Claus and That You Santa, which both have kind of an R&B scat feel to them. What's the influence there, Lyn? How did they come about?
Well, I wanted to do songs that generally weren't too used and overused.
Yeah.
And I did, honestly, I'll tell you, I wanted to get into the category of Santa Baby with a sexy something.
Yeah.
And when I was a girl, my mom and dad, when they divorced when I was 8, but when I was young, I remember them playing Louis Armstrong and playing Is That You, Santa Claus on a vinyl at the house. And I always went around the house I was an only child, and I went around the house pretending to be Louis Armstrong, and I would do an imitation of him, and then I would do Donald Duck and other things after that. But I decided when I was recording with the guys, I did it as a demo first. And then after the demo, while we were doing the demo, I was just making thought I would make the guys laugh.
Yeah.
So I was just messing around, and the demos are obviously not the real recording, but I did this, I did this imitation, and the guys went, "Oh, do that. Oh, do it. Yeah, do it." I said, "Really? Do you think so?" "Yeah, do it." And so I said, "Okay, we'll try it." So I kept doing it. No one said stop. No one said don't do that. And so then I come in with this very sexy, intro of the actual song.
Yeah.
But that's why. And then I came up with this ad lib at the end, totally ad lib. And I was messing around again when we were doing the vocals, and my Wendy Wagner, who is the backup singer on the album, and also just a background on her, she is a singer for Ringo Starr and Barbra Streisand and others, background singer, and Joe Walsh. She's in the Joe Walsh band. But they and the engineer recording the vocals went, "Keep that. That's good." That they were laughing their heads off, because I was just pretending like the Santa Baby lady was, what do I want? It's all materialistic kind of things over. And I just wanted the album to start with a fun idea in the front end. So that's how that one came about. The Boogie Woogie, I wanted a swing. You might know that I'm a U.S. amateur champion ballroom dancer.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, I know now.
So I have always leaned towards my songs to have some kind of a rhythm you can dance to.
Yeah.
And I wanted a swing built into this album. And Boogie Woogie was not a very often recorded song. And the last recording of it that made any impact was probably in the 50s. And so I thought, well, I'll redo it and see if I can bring it forward to the current time zone.
Speaking of the 50s, what also impressed me, and this kind of goes along with some of the press cuttings in your biography, Lyn, is that it's one of the quotes I read was about every song tells an individual story, but don't try to make a cover, just try to make it your own, which is an ethos that I've long since had with all sorts of artists across musical boundaries. The two songs that appealed to me on the 50s album were I'm Walking, which is kind of almost a second line type rhythm for New Orleans, and Love Potion Number 9, where you know and I know that Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller wrote such poetic rhythm and blues songs, but you kind of take that to a new dimension, Lyn, and you really make it into a story that you're telling for the first time.
I try. Thank you. I try to do that with every song that I attack, in terms of the approach that I'll take. The arranger on that song, I said, I want to take a little bit from what the Lieberman and team did in terms of the very end. And Love Potion Number 9, that low thing that goes on. But in the meantime, I wanted to make it a story of this poor chap who's just stuck, and make it more. Again, when you bring in what people don't understand often is that when you bring in dance rhythms, real dance rhythms to strict timing, that you must know that England is very, very famous for having developed the ballroom dancing book of rules, more or less, that if you use those strict timings, you will come up with something that's quite unusual in terms of the very general market of making music. Because honestly, I would tell you 90%, maybe 98% of every musician I've worked with does not know how to dance. They do not. I met one guy, he's on this album actually, Bill Cunliffe. He knows how to swing, and but 90% they wouldn't know a rumba from a whatever, or foxtrot from a whatever.
Now that makes a huge significant impact from
Yes.
what I'm just reading about you and what you've just said there, that you have a dance tempo in your head as well as the time signature of the tune when you're singing it, which puts a whole different conception on the record.
Right. And so when I did the song that you haven't heard yet that is on the main album, I was asked by a fan to do Merry Christmas, Darling. I said, come on, Karen Carpenter, you know, really? People do compare the smoothness of my voice a lot to her. I said, I have to come up with an entirely new way of doing it if I'm going to. And so I thought about it, and I thought, I'll give a nod to Karen in the beginning and do the front end as she had done it. But then we move right into a samba.
Yeah.
And take it up to us. You know, no one's done it that way. And it was very engaging, as it turned out. It's a very interesting song. When you hear it yourself, you'll get what I mean.
Okay.
But I want to, all the time I'm always spinning the wheels on how to redo, rethink, reimagine a song. And one of the reasons I think I got Vocalist of the Year from Saul Levine, who runs the largest jazz station in the US in terms of audience. He gave me Female Vocalist of the Year in 2018, just because I think of my attack on the songs and the different approaches I've taken.
Yeah. Okay. What I was speaking of different styles there, Lyn, and one song that I've heard two versions of recently, you'll be familiar with it from the Dolly Parton original with Jolene. And there are two new blues versions, one by Robin McKell, who's a country lady, but she's from Rochester, New York, currently living in Paris, but she's done a bluesy version. And a British girl called Jo Harmon has also done it with a bluesy, which totally takes it. Now, what I want you to do with the next album is have a look at Jolene and put either a waltz tempo to it, or perhaps a rumba rhythm to it. Just put it into a different arena and see how Jolene sounds to you as a jazz singer and a dancer.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lyric.
Yes.
Very, very touching. Oh my gosh, very touching. I actually have experienced, I like to really, I'll always sing about things I've experienced in my own life.
Yeah.
As I can really then, one of the things I have a hard time with sometimes, and that's just me speaking here, only me. When you hear a young girl who's in their 20s, early 20s, try to do jazz, the standards, who doesn't have you have to have wearing tires. You've got to experience all those things that they're talking about to really get to the lyric, the nitty gritty of part of the lyric. I personally always will appreciate when an older person does those lyrics who's been through the mill. And that's what that song I can definitely relate to.
And one that I'd written on my pad here was and again came from reading the bios, and you've just kind of hinted at it there, is doing songs from life experience, which adds a whole, and again, another dimension to a song rather than just reading a lyric sheet. And it just, you're injected with that. You see, it seems endemic to your style, Lyn, that you write from life experience, and it comes across so much in the emotive impact of the music.
Right, I do. I had a critic who's in the audiophile world really nail me on a song that I did for Moonlight Sessions, Volume 1. He went ballistic on me. I mean, 80% of his how could she do it that way, how could blah blah blah. I mean, it's really, and it turned out that negative review, I got more hits on that song than I ever imagined. But you know, I can thank him for that part. But he really didn't like what I did, and I said to him, how can you tell an artist how to interpret a song as a reviewer? You can't. You really don't know how I felt, and that particular song was all or nothing at all. Now, I had been in a situation in my marriage when my husband cheated on me, so I had the impact of what it meant to me, and I was bringing it forward in the song.
Yeah.
Those songs in that Moonlight Sessions series, I did two, a Volume 1 and a Volume 2, and I integrated classical music into jazz standards. I put them together, and I did Rhapsody in Blue, combined that. I didn't use a clarinet at the beginning. I used a trumpet, and I used our famous trumpet player, Chuck Finley, to do that for me. And that echoing hurt that he was able to create with that trumpet, and then
Yeah.
the emotive discipline I put in the song. That's what I'm all about, really. I'm
Yeah.
really feeling for people who've been through those situations, and still I'm expanding as a new singer, really. I mean, I'm expanding my delivery also, while I'm going through this journey. I'm getting better and better every time I do another album. I get to learn more each time.
Yeah. And you've just also alluded to something else there, Lynn, with the fact that certain instruments, trumpet is one, and a baritone sax, perhaps more than a tenor, is another, that actually convey a depth of emotion in a song, which
Right.
others might have a rhythm base, but not an emotive base.
Right. So when I mentioned at the beginning, we talked about Stanley Turrentine.
Yeah.
What I had said, what I believe strongly, many of the arrangers I work with don't know the lyrics.
Yeah.
Don't know the lyrics. And a lot of the players I've worked with don't know the lyrics. Stanley Turrentine knows the lyrics. There are a lot of, again, there are quite a, not a boatload, but there are numbers of musicians that I think have impacted us greatly who know the lyrics, and they are able to take that instrument and make you feel that word. And I always will thank Stanley Turrentine for, even though I never got to meet him, I never got to see him play, but I have his recordings, and I'm so grateful I have them to help me figure out how he perceived that song and how I might then also.
Yeah, because Mr. Tarantine, of course, people forget that he began back in 1958-59 with Blue Note, recording with the Jimmy Smith combo, and only sort of came into a contemporary thing in the 70s, and sadly passed away, what, 10 years ago now? But he had a whole range of musical style and subtlety from the Blue Note era that a bit like the Ornette Coleman style of the world, but taking the tone of the instrument way down. But really an expressive player was Stanley.
Yeah, he was very expressive. I have I don't know if you've listened to a lot of my work yet, but if you do, you'll find I use Ricky Woodward on sax, tenor sax,
Okay.
and I also use John Cudini. John Cudini is on the Natalie Cole Unforgettable album. He was Peggy Lee's guitarist for 25 years. He wrote songs with her. He has an incredible repertoire. He can go to blues one minute, country another minute. He can go to a Spanish flamenco, and we did a version with Mike Garson, David Bowie's piano player. He's on 3 of my albums, and John and Mike Garson together, we did this incredible Light My Fire that it sounds like it's coming right out of a Clint Eastwood movie, and with the the cowboy hat and the cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and you hear the beginning of the 7, whatever that was, a 7. They know how to do those incredible things that are just not everyday kinds of expressions.
Yeah, and your voice knits all this together on the albums the tracks that I've heard, Lynn, which is a unique experience for me as a new fan of yours, and my listeners will also become new fans, I'm sure. And I'm going to have to cut this short now, but I'm eternally grateful to Zachary for bringing me into contact with you and bringing you into my life, Lynn. This has been a lovely 20-minute conversation. We've been talking like old friends we never met before.
It's true. It's true. It's really, really wonderful, Clive. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time too.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to go away now. I'm going to buy a couple of albums off your website because I'm so in love with the music now, and I'm going to be playing more jazz. And the next thing we want to do, perhaps during 2022, let's do a Lyn Stanley Sings the Blues album with some jazz blues standards. And I'm happy to be an executive A&R from across the ocean to guide you as to how we want these things to sound, Lynn.
I would love to hear your ideas on that. And I will also make arrangements for you to get a copy, if you can give me your address, of the actual vinyl record that I have for this big band album.
Okay, that would be superb. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm going to go away and edit this. Lyn Stanley, thank you very much for your time and your music and being a lovely person to talk with.
Oh, thank you very much, Clive. Take care. Have a lovely day too.
Have a nice day. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.